Ice heart, cold flesh, the chill wind blows. Hunger. All it feels is hunger. Eyes hollow, sunken, skin pale, ashen gray, stretched taut over its straining ribs, mouth slavering, covered in blood. It is famine. It is the hunger that should never be. And far to the north, by the lakes that should be seas, it stalks the people. When the bitter winds blow, and the snows come, and the game runs scarce, the craving comes to some, the desire for human flesh. And as this thought possesses a person, their heart becomes ice, and they turn Wendigo. They forget that people are people, and not just animals to be consumed, and they become a danger to all who pass them by. So the people put out a call for warriors to do away with the cannibals. One day, a man came to them, a stranger, not from the people, and he said, "I'm here to do the job." He was Anwe the Killer, a man skilled in death. The people told him of cannibals, and he merely nodded and left. He was a meticulous, practiced killer. He was not haphazard, nor a believer merely in tales. And so he went to the woods, hid, and observed every family. Where did they go? What did they do? There was one group that stood out to him from the rest. A large clan consisting of an old man, his wife, and their 7 sons. He watched them hunt and fish and go about their lives like ordinary people. But he knew that cannibals don't simply eat human flesh. They live like everyone else, until the craving comes on them. Then, they kidnap a person and carve them up, just like wild game. And once they've eaten, they think of it just as a meal, no different from any other, and go back to their ordinary lives. So he observed this family. They seemed somehow off, somehow disturbing and different to him. So he continued to watch them until at last he witnessed the aftermath of one of their meals. Finally, he was sure, and he began to dedicate all of his time to observing them, studying their patterns, and preparing his attack. He decided the old man was the weakest of them, so it would be him he would approach first. Each day, he followed the old man silently in the woods, and each day, while his sons were out hunting, the old man would check an abandoned beaver den to see if any of the beavers had returned that he might catch one for his family to eat. And when at last he was ready, Anwe snuck up and met him there. "Hello, brother," he called to the old man. You see, he used his powers to make him look not like the powerful warrior he was, but thin, frail, and hungry. The old man was surprised, but greeted him, and Anwe said, "Come, help me prepare to catch this beaver." The old man knew there was nothing in the beaver den, but he played along, thinking that this frail man would be easy for his sons to kill and for them to make a meal of. Then Anwe says to him, "Lend me your poncho so that I may fix the hole in the dam. That way when the water rises, the beavers will take to their den." So the old man does this, and they both part ways, agreeing to meet there again at dawn. When the old man arrives home, he tells his sons that he met a man by the beaver den, and they gasp. They say it could be Anwe, because they'd heard that he'd been sent by the people to kill them. But the old man says, No, it couldn't possibly be him. He was nearly frozen and half-starved." His sons, though, just become more suspicious. "I don't know. Anwe's very tricky," they say. So the old man says, "He is to meet us at sunrise. Let us go to the beaver den before sunrise and ambush him. Then he can be our meal." His sons, wary, finally agree. So in the bitter cold that comes before dawn, they hike out to the beaver den, and once there, see a strapping man, full-muscled and strong. He calls out to them and waves them over. The sons think they should spread out and try to take him by surprise, but the old man says no. After all, he might not know that they are the cannibals. So they approach as if to help, and Anwe tells them that he and the old man will chisel a hole in the ice while the 7 sons go into the forest and get some sticks he prepared last night to use to get to the beaver. So the sons go off to retrieve the sticks, and Anwe and the old man chisel at the lake. Once they made a sizable hole, Anwe says, this has been thirsty work, and leans down to drink. Now, the old man thinks about knifing him right there. But as he hesitates, Anwe gets back up and says to him, you must be thirsty too. Go ahead, have a drink. So, slowly, the old man gets down to drink, and as he does, bang! Anwe stabs him in the back and kicks his body into the hole in the ice. But all 7 sons can tell that their father is dead and rush to the beaver dam. Anwe, though, put the sticks that he had sent them to fetch at all different distances, so they arrive one at a time. The first son rushes in. Anwe dodges the charge and stabs him with his ice chisel. Then he whirls around just in time to catch the second brother under the jaw. Right after that, the third brother shows up and tries to stab Anwe, but he is too fast and dispatches him as well. Brothers 4 and 5 quickly approach, but now Anwe has his bow, and with 1 arrow each, he dispatches them. Next comes the second youngest brother. That's number 6 for those of you keeping score at home. And this brother has true Wendigo powers. Vicious and cruel, he hurls branches at Anwe like javelins, but Anwe weaves between them and pins him with arrow after arrow, each time shouting, feel what you made the people feel. Finally, the Wendigo topples and Anwe is left with only 1 more. Brother number 7 is the youngest and begs Anwe for mercy, but Anwe says, how many times did you show mercy to the people who begged for their lives? And the cannibal replies, never. And with 1 lightning-fast motion, Anwe slits his throat. Then he hid the bodies and crawled into the beaver den, knowing that there was 1 more foe. The old man's wife would be along that evening to appraise the meat she was to cook, and as dusk began to settle in, she arrived with a train of women, wives and servants of the 7 boys. Anwe called out to her to come into the beaver den, but she was too smart for that, and asked where her husband was. In the silence, it began to dawn on her what had happened. So with a mighty scream, she threw the stone mallet she tenderized the meat with at Anwe. If he had not been so supernaturally quick, it would have killed him. But instead, it merely grazed him as he charged. And once he was upon her, he split her head open with a stone. He then cried to the women, those of you who are captives, step aside. And many women stepped back. However, a handful of Wendigo women remained. They fought and fought, but finally he slew the last of them, and said to the women who had been captives, you know what we must do. So they cut up the bodies and piled the pieces on a great bonfire, so they wouldn't come to life again. But as the bonfire roared, the hearts wouldn't burn. They just sat there, continuing to beat in the middle of the blaze, so filled with ice they were. So they gathered more wood and continued to feed the fire until the last frozen heart gave way. But that's not the end of the tale. So join us next time for our Mythology Matters segment for the history behind the Wendigo tale. Because seriously, it's gonna shock you. Now, would one of you poke the fire and make sure there's no frozen hearts in there?